What's happening, guys? I just want to quickly show you a little handful of little production tips that I learned over the years that help me get a more crisp and clean and powerful sound out of the orchestra using samples. So I'm just going to dive into one of the first ones, and it's using OTT, saturation, and an EQ to really make elements pop a bit more and sound a bit more crisp and powerful. So let's go to the horns, for example. Here, listen to this line, which sounds alright because it's a good library, but listen to the difference now. And in the mix. It just cuts through a little bit more and it sounds a little bit more bright and clean. And what I've also done is that I've cut out a little bit of the low end or low mid mud here. And I'm using a saturator, just a tiny little bit, boosting it a little bit, the horn here, and using OTT, which is at like only 12%, but it makes a big difference. It just brings out a bit more of the air and the brassy quality in the instrument. And I would be careful in this in very lush, organic kind of orchestral pieces, but when it comes to more aggressive ones, this effect can really make things pop and sound way more intense and aggressive. We could also do that, I think, on the horns here. I mean, the chords in the horns, which I've already added some saturation, but let's add a little bit of the OTT and the EQ as well to it. See what that does. I'm going to group them so we can take them on and off to see the difference. When I take it on and off, you can hear that it kind of opens a bit more. And it might be a little bit much, so I'll take it down to even less. And these little things, when applied to several instruments, can, make them cut through a little bit more, even them out a bit, and make them sit better in the mix. But you have to be careful, because overdoing this is going to make it sound really sharp and unnatural. Because you still want it to sound like a natural instrument. And this goes for like most of the brass instruments here. So I like to use a little bit of OTT, cutting out some of the unnecessary frequencies and applying a little bit of saturation. Not very much, but a little bit. Let's see the trombones, if that works there as well. Just opens it up and makes it a little bit more punchy. I could also do the same thing for the violins, and here I used to, usually not do it on every single instrument, but maybe one of the violins, so it doesn't add up too much of the high frequencies and end up sounding too sharp. This could also benefit from a little bit of mud fixing. And look at all this low-end buildup. That's another thing. You need to take care of these low-end frequencies. Because with all the instruments, it's going to add up and cover up all the percussion and bass and low brass and everything you have happening. So I'm going to take out everything under a certain frequency. Usually around, 70 probably for these ones. I'm going to pop this into this. opens up the violin sound a little bit. Again, I don't use this on every single instrument and every single violin track or string track, because I just want it as a subtle effect on maybe the highest of violins to bring them out more, and to me it helps combat that muffled effect you can get when you have lots of libraries layered. It tightens it up and brings out the high end a little bit more. So that's the use of OTT and saturation. Now I also want to move over to staccato strings. So I just put in, let's see where you can find them, little staccato pattern right here. And let's listen to it first. Which sounds fine. It's, good samples. And when you apply this in a big mix, for example, a big trailer track, you might find that it doesn't drive and bite as much as you'd like it to. And some of the things I like to do here is, again, to use a tiny bit of saturation. I usually use a little bit more on the staccato biting strings when I want more bite to them than I do to, say, if a legato violin line, but still you have to be careful so it doesn't become too extreme. You still want it to sound natural. But let's listen to the OTT and saturator on the strings. Just a little bit more open and punchy. Then the next thing I want to look at is using a transient master or any plugin that works on the transients to boost the attack a little bit, take down the sustain a tiny bit, and maybe add a little bit of gain. Again, nothing too extreme. This is just going to subtly add more bite to them and make the transients in the beginning of the notes just really pop through. And that's going to give you a really nice percussive edge to the staccato tracks, especially in more driving cues. And if you have plugins like Neutron, that's also a good place to begin, because these are just like free or stock plugins basically. But here, if I go into Neutron here, I got also an equalizer that takes out some of the low mid mud here, as well as a little exciter that just brings a little bit of saturation and a bit of a tape sound to the strings, just like the saturator does here. Using both of them can be a little bit too extreme, depends on the track, but I just wanted to show you two different ways that you can do it. And you can also add a little bit of a compressor into it as well. And listen to the difference. Sounds a bit muffled, and you can hear those low mids kind of ringing. Bringing up the high end more, getting rid of the low mids, and adding more of a snap to the transients. A couple of different ways to do that, but this really helps in making things more punchy. And this goes for percussion as well. And brass, that's like staccato, quick articulations. It goes for any kind of snappy sound. So those are two of my tips, using quite basic tools to bring out more of the high end and the airy, beautiful sound in both violins, horns, or whatever instruments you want, as well as bringing more of an attack and snap to shorter articulations and staccato patterns and stuff. Another thing I just want to mention before I end this off is to be absolutely really careful with your arrangements. So really work on your separation between elements. Make sure that you have a spacious low end that's not too cluttered, and that's going to generate too many overtones, so it just ends up getting the whole mix very muddy. And make sure that every element you have in there has some kind of purpose and is crucial to the overall sound. So those are a couple of things I want you to keep in mind, and that hopefully can be helpful to you in getting a more crisp, clean sound. I'll see you guys later.